This is just geared at those of you looking to do the extension practice. It turns out that some of these expressions are a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to give you some strategies to help make them less complicated. And in the end, it's really not so bad, even kind of fun. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. Oh my gosh, look at all the stuff. It looks so intimidating. Let's break it down. First thing I'd like to do is go through and see if you have anything with an exponent of 0. Because anything with an exponent of 0 means that it turns into the number 1, and multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. So like this v to 0 right here is just the number 1. I don't even need to worry about it. Look at that. Now it's all done. Next, it's helpful to check and see if you have some parentheses. If you do, start with parentheses that are inside and kind of work out. This time, though, we don't have any parentheses, so that's okay. Now, the next one talks about rewriting negative exponents. You got to know what negative exponents do, right? They just switch your position. So, for example, let's take this and rewrite it so that it doesn't have negative exponents. That just means 2 is going to stay on the top where it is, but this v is going to move down to the bottom and become a v to the positive first. Now, an exponent of positive 1 we don't usually write, so I'm not gonna. But v to the negative 1 on the top is the same thing as v to the positive 1 on the bottom. This 3 and this u squared are going to stay where they are. The 6 is going to stay where it is, but this u to the negative second is going to move upstairs and become u to the positive second. Okay, this a little less scary, I hope, because now all the exponents are positive. It's less intimidating. Now let's simplify it like we've normally been simplifying things. Let's deal with just the numbers first. So what do we have? 2 over 3 times 6. So 2, 3, 6. Let's reduce. 2 goes into 2 once and into 6 3 times. So really what I have is I've got a 1 on the top and on the bottom a 3 times 3, which is 9. Coefficients are taken care of. Now let's look at u's and see, well, where do you have more u's? I've got more u's on the bottom. How many more u's? Well, exponent of 2, exponent of 3, that means there's 1 extra u on the bottom. There it is. And then the v, there aren't any other v's. So this is now all done. I hope you can see why we call it simplifying, because this original thing looked kind of messy. This looks less messy. Okay, let's do a couple more examples. Now, what I'd like you to do is to do a quick pause, try this first one. If you get to a point where you get stuck, unpause, and then let's check things out. Okay, I am hoping that I look. Okay, do I have any exponents of 0? No. All right. Do I have some parentheses? Absolutely. We've got parentheses all over the place. So let's start on the inside and work our way out. So what that means is I'm temporarily going to leave this 3y alone. I'm going to leave this exponent of negative 3 alone. And this part here, we're going to simplify. So for the x's, this 2 times that 4 is going to give me x to the 8th. And for my y's, this negative 4 times that 4 is going to give me a negative 16. Here's my next recommendation. Simplify what's in these parentheses. So what do I have? I've got a 3, and there's no other coefficients inside, so that's just going to stay a 3. I've got an x to the 8th. There's no other x's in the parentheses, that's just going to stay x to the 8th. Now for my y's, though, I've got y, which is y to the 1st, times y to the negative 16th. Add those exponents together since we're multiplying things. 1 plus negative 16 is negative 15. That means I've got a y to the 15th that's going to be in the bottom of things. So we're just cleaning up those parentheses, now cleaning up this set of parentheses. Now we can deal with this other exponent here. I like to avoid negative exponents if I can help it. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to flip things upside down, make the exponent a positive 3. So I'm going to put the y to the 15th now on the top, the 3x to the 8th on the bottom, and change this exponent to a positive 3. The negative in the exponent already flipped things upside down. Now, let's just apply this like we normally would. So for the y, power to a power, 15 times 3. It's going to be y to the 45th. On the bottom, don't forget to take the 3 to the third power as well. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. And the x to the 8th to the third power, power to a power, multiply those exponents together. 8 times 3 is going to be 24. This is not a simple thing, but it is simpler if you take it a step at a time. This is not the sort of thing to try and do all in your head. Let's keep going. Next one. Once again, do a quick pause, unpause when you're ready to check things. So I'm looking first for exponents of 0. Right there is one. So that y to the 0 doesn't have any impact. Now notice here how I've got something kind of complicated on the top of a fraction. I think it's going to make our lives easier if we just simplify that first. So on the top, the 7 times the 7, x times x to the third is going to be x to the fourth, and there's a y there as well. And down below, we've got x to the negative 1, y to the negative 4. Okay. Now, you got choices. I think here, why don't we just apply our subtraction property, right? When you divide exponents, you can subtract those exponents. So 49, and for my x's, 4 minus negative 1. 4 minus negative 1 is 5, so x to the 5th. And for my y's, it's 1 minus negative 4. 1 minus negative 4. That also ends up being 5. Right, there it is. So take it a step at a time. Keep track of your work as you go. Now this last one, ooh, is a doozy. A doozy, I say. Okay, once again, quick pause. Unpause when you're ready to check things. It's going to help us to deal with these parentheses first, because I can't start mixing this stuff with this stuff until those parentheses are gone. Parentheses are very much like a prison that way. So let's take the 2 to this third power. That's going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. This is really a y to the first right now. Take the 1 times that exponent of 3, power to a power. For the x's, power to a power, 3 times 3 is going to be 9. 3y x to the negative second, that hasn't changed. And then down here, 4y to the negative 1, that hasn't changed. Okay. Now you've got some choices. I think I want to maybe try and do this all at once, or do I? No, let's simplify the top first. So just like we did in the previous example, we're going to simplify the top of the fraction and then mix it together with the bottom. So on the top, 8 times 3, that's 24. For my x's, x to the 9th, x to the negative second, they're multiplied together, so add those exponents. 9 plus negative 2 is 7, so x to the 7th. For my y's, y to the third, y to the first, add those exponents. I've got y to the fourth. And now on the bottom, 4y to the negative first. Okay, let's finish it up. 24 divided by 4, that's just 6. X's, there's no other x's. For my y's, it's division, so top exponent minus bottom exponent. 4 minus negative 1 is 5, so y to the 5th. And again, I'm never going to say this is easy, but it's easier if you keep track of your steps along the way. Make sure you're applying the right properties and trust your steps.